Welcome to the Trinity Force Podcast. Yo, it's that Triforce cast beaming straight to your home. Grab a beer so we know Pone ain't drinking alone. Send an email, a quick tweet, just pick up the phone. Leave a message, hit the beep if you're a creep, watch your tone. Discuss the meta game, patch notes, whatever helps your stats most. Obi-Pone Kenobi is your last hope to snatch gold. So grab your headphones and join in the fun. We'll try enforcing some jokes and some cringeworthy puns. Yo, we can make it together, people. Trinity Force Podcast. These boys are second to none. Now that's the end of the intro. It's time we begun.
And here we are. Episode 476 is now live, joined by three great guys. Santana, Marina, and Heartless are all here. What's up, fellas?
What up, my dogs?
Man, we had that microphone, and it had to have come right when the podcast started. And of course, there's always technical difficulties setting it up. But you know what, Heartless, we're still happy to have you here.
Yeah, man, they show up at, they said they'd come before 5 o'clock, and they show up at 4:59, so.
Technically before.
Technically before.
That guy's just
FedEx
wishing he could be
looked
home, so. You know, got to give it to the guy. At least he made it in time.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. So, if you guys are out there, you have one more week left to get that contest in. Contest at TrinityForcePodcast.com. This is the Skylab Performance Tilt Contest. Send us a picture or a screenshot or a video of somebody tilting, either yourself or somebody in game, to go along with the chairs that we are selling. That goes until the 30th at midnight Eastern Time. If it comes in after that, I will not count it. So, well, actually, I'll go midnight Pacific Time. Pacific Daylight Time, because I'll give you guys on the West Coast a little bit more time to put it in. So 3 a.m. Eastern Time, technically you have it in too. So send those screenshots in. There's really not a lot of people that have signed up, surprisingly. Under 50 people have sent submissions in, so you have a pretty good chance at winning a chair. As well, I've had a lot of people buy those chairs. I hope you guys like them out there. Again, 30th until everything is done. Moving on forward, the weekly challenge. We talked about it last week, where I want you guys to build selflessly. Now this week, another selfless piece of information for you guys to use is I want you to ping every ward that you see. Now, there is a new ward ping in the game that you have to go bind yourself, but I don't think it's too hard for you guys to Google and figure out how to bind it. But yes, every time you see someone drop a ward, ping it so we know where it is at.
Super helpful. I do it all the time.
I have not bound the ping ward yet.
I have bound it to spacebar.
Because
I don't remember what spacebar was before, and I never used it, so.
Spacebar is lock camera.
Is what?
Mm-hmm. It's center your camera. Do you play
I never center the camera. I just flick my mouse.
I'm
Yeah.
constantly centering my camera on top of myself.
Yeah, dude, the spacebar is really helpful because you can be looking somewhere else on the map, and then you screen flash red because you take damage. Bam, spacebar. Back.
I just click my portrait or flick my mouse. One of the two.
This guy playing with too high a DPM, next level.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty much though.
Twisted Fate man, clearly.
Mm-hmm.
Right, the world famous Santana Twisted Fate.
The world famous 06 in lane TF that still somehow wins games. Like it just happens.
That was me this weekend.
Yeah, Adam tried to copy your world famous TF.
I went
0-6
down.
And then he gold carded someone and we won the game. So
hey, at least he's not copying my 4-0 Katarina into feeding the next 6 deaths in a row and then losing that game. That was good too.
No, we had worse things happen this weekend. So
I heard some horror stories.
Yeah, we ran into a master level Zed mid lane, and then we had that master level Zed jungle.
We've been running into weirder and weirder like MR or MMR ranks in terms of flex because of the way flex works. I remember we had a game, there was a master levels player in their jungle too, and it was just like, but one of the other counts on their team was like unranked in solo queue, and it was just weird.
Yeah, I've been playing a bit of like flex solo as well, and I've noticed that too. You'll get master level players, and then you'll have a silver 80 carry or something, and
right,
makes the games really unbalanced sometimes.
And I get that people like to play with their friends, but sometimes I wish like they kind of made it so like even if you're like, I don't know, like 2 divisions fully above anybody on your team, you probably shouldn't be playing with them, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
Well, that would take all my fun away.
I know, but like, it's just weird.
Yeah.
Oh well, give us 5s back. That's all we asked for.
Pretty much. That's pretty much what I want. Is a 5s. Like, I don't care. But that's what rank flex is, right? They'll just make that argument that 5s is rank flex. But,
right.
I guess we're going to, since we're running a little late and we still got to try to get this done by just around 9 or after 9, we'll just jump right into some discussion.
Sure, let's go.
Hey, Todd, last Monday, it was last Monday, do you remember talking about game length and success, or at least wanting to talk about that?
Yeah, briefly. It was I remember making the comment that I think a lot of the game's issues stem from how the length of the game works, basically. Like, the rules of the game change over time, and I think that is a source of frustration for a lot of people.
Well, I was just so with that discussion, the game length and success. I was just telling Beaver before this podcast that when I play mid, generally I'll go even or one down in mid. I don't really ever win straight out. And then as the game goes on and we start to lose into the mid game, or we make poor decisions going into the mid game, I start to make poor decisions myself to try to bring our team back into it. Because I'm like, all right, I'm on this. I can carry if I just do this, right? Then I start dying. And then we go into late game, and I feel like I have to try even harder as we continue to move in. And it completely warps my mentality of how I should be playing or what I should be playing based on how far the game is going. Because at a point, I'm being carried. Right, because I'm now 0-4-1 or something out of mid lane, and I'm being completely carried by my team, and I feel like I have to redeem myself because of pride, and I'm sure that happens a lot when you're playing solo queue as well. And we've talked about trying to get carried, right? And pride gets in the way a lot, and I know that's really screws with my mentality, and something that I just recognized has been happening. So that's something I'm trying to fix moving in here into the rest of the season.
People don't know how to play with a deficit at all. Like, it's just a common thing, especially in the lower elo solo queues, where like you're down like 0-5 in kills or whatever, and people are just like, all right, just open mid. They're just like checked out immediately, even though like they may have the better scaling comp, or they may have the better team fight, things like that. And like, just because like, oh man, we're down a little bit early. It's solo queue, and I don't know if anybody's watched any games at any elo, but it's a fiesta all the time, and people know how to throw better than anything else. So just the biggest thing is just not letting like early game just completely destroy your mentality going into like later stages of the game.
I think there's a lot of recognition that you have to do when you're looking at your team composition to understand like how you should be playing the game. A lot of characters are geared towards specific frames of time during the game, basically. Like if you're playing an early game champ, you kind of have to have an aggressive mentality because you're relying on snowballing. And there are some characters that are really strong mid game and not so much early or late. And you kind of have to like play safe early, and then you transition into this really aggressive play style, and then you kind of transition out of it again. A lot of characters have that like really roller coaster dynamic. I don't know if it's like the best thing for the game, but it is one of the layers of strategy. And I think there are characters not characters, but players who aren't patient enough or don't take the time to kind of learn those patterns and play to their strengths.
I would agree.
Late game length is hard. Playing in the late game is hard for a lot of people because most solo queue games are done by about 25, 30 minutes or whatever, or even decided by 15 minutes, even though we tell you to stick in there, right? There's always that chance it's going to turn around. But playing into that late game, especially the 45, 50-minute games where you really can't make any missteps or mistakes, because there's a lot of times where you have to have somebody sitting in the base, and you have to have the right person sitting in the base to push it back, or that person or that jungler has to be moving toward that objective next. I know there's a lot of pressure on junglers to be in the right place at the right time throughout the entirety of the game. Dragon and Baron being like the biggest factors in that, because if you've taken early Baron, you have to be back around for that next Baron to be up, or you risk it either being stolen or you not being available to take it when you guys need to kill it.
Oh god, people not knowing back timers and how those work in terms of timing objectives. That's one of the things that tilts me the most. Is like, all right guys, I've been pinging Baron for like a minute, and now you're backing right as it's spawning, and it's gone. Great. All right, cool. Moving on.
Yeah. I know we were talking about, I guess, sort of game length, but when it comes to the late game, oftentimes in those closer games, maybe 30 minutes plus, you'll be sitting sort of like grouped up as 5 because your team's just asking you to group or whatever. And if you happen to see someone on a ward on the other side of the map, even if they have teleport, feel free to just try and hard engage on the enemy team, because you have a man advantage, and in the late game that's significant. So even if your team is behind 10,000 gold, the playing field is sort of equaled out by that one person being missing. And you're never gonna get back into a game unless you take some risks. I'd call that a calculated risk. It's not stupid, because you have a man advantage, so the playing field would be even if you're way behind. So why not take it? Because if you don't do that, then your team's just going to sit there, be indecisive, and being indecisive leads to losses.
Yeah, I see it too many times with the Baron dance, where the team is already on Baron and the jungler might not. It just decides that they don't want to go in because they're being poked out, but you need to make that split-second decision to just jump in there and see what happens. Generally speaking, if you just jump in, assuming it's not just one of you, if you jump into that pit 3v5, you're going to take somebody out with you, potentially even their jungler, leading it up to them backing off a Baron. Like, you have to make those calculated decisions as a team, and you have to be the shot caller on your team if you don't think anybody else is doing it for you, where you're pinging, we need to go now.
And especially as a jungler, making Baron calls is one of the most important parts of your job, and I personally think it's something I'm quite good at. Especially early game, like around 20 to 25 minutes, no one expects you to take Baron. They're all not thinking about that. They're still in dragon mode. They're just getting out of laning phase. They've just bought their first, maybe even second item. So if you see the enemy teams ahead of you, but they're going for that Infernal Drake and Baron just spawned, and your team happens to be grouped around the top side, just take the Baron. You're going to get it in time. They're not even thinking that you're going to be there, and I highly doubt it's even warded at that time of the game. And once you get that Baron, you can really sort of hold off, maybe get your few more items, or you could even make a push together as a unit.
I'll give that to you.
And as far
we've had some really good Baron calls. I just wish we would do better about actually using the Baron once we get it. But that's a discussion, or something that internally with the crew playing together is something we have to fix. But yeah, no, those calls to get Baron, when even I'm going, what? I mean, it makes sense suddenly, like in the head. I'm just like, I would have never even thought to call Baron at this point.
Yeah. If you watch any LCS this season, Dignitas was really good at that, where they would
wait. Did you just say Dignitas is really good about taking Baron?
They were actually like one of the best Baron play teams this season. Surprisingly, they would, because they knew like they trade like whatever they take. The other team would take tier 2 tower at like 19 minutes or whatever, and Dignitas is literally on Baron at 20 minutes, like 50 or 60% of their games, and they get it scot free for a lot of times. They got that down to a T. And it was really impressive to watch, and just kind of picking up those kind of things for your solo queue games when it's not warded and they're nowhere near it. And yeah, you might do it a little slow and you might be real low when you're done with it, but you can get it for free a lot of the time.
Yeah, and as a general rule, I think this is not always the case. It depends on the situation, but in solo queue, people tend to sort of prioritize getting one inhibitor over getting a Baron, and that might work when you're in a lower elo, but when you start to climb higher and higher, you have to prioritize Baron more, because if you win a team fight and now you have a 3-man advantage, you should go and start the Baron, and if they decide to contest you, you can clean sweep their team, just turn around on them and engage on them, and then you can take the Baron for free, plus you got 3 extra kills. That's the advantage of Baron, and then you can back as a unit, get more gold because you just got a bunch and more experience, and then you can run down together and take the inhibitor. So now you have the Baron and the inhibitor. Now, if you decide to take the inhibitor after a one-team fight, it's risky because, yes, you got the inhibitor, their team is going to spawn as 5, and if they're clever opponents, they're going to run right to Baron because you're going to be backing, maybe going out onto the map, spreading out, and they can instantly do that, especially late game when the damage is high from all the characters. You just have to be wary that that's an option for the enemy team, and by doing Baron first, you eliminate that potential counterplay. But yeah.
No, you're right. I'm just thinking through it. It's hard in solo queue to get people to go and get to Baron.
It is hard.
Right? Because a lot of people just want to push those side lanes, push whatever it is. But
corralling cats is really hard.
Right. I think there's something here to be said about just taking control of the game at an early point, especially if you're the jungler or even mid lane, where you're corralling the cats early. Hey, I'm doing this. Hey, I'm doing that. We're going to go here. Ping this, ping that. And if you can prove to the team that you're doing well and your pings mean something, they'll start listening to you moving into that late game. So if you just want to go into the game, if you're hard stuck silver right now and trying to get to gold, why not start making calls and decisions because nobody else is?
And even any decision as a unit is better than scattered decisions or no decision at all. So if you can unify your team, that's a good way to win games, I would say, especially if you're stuck in silver, because you'll find 80 carries walking around the jungle with no vision.
That's the best kind of 80 carry.
Exactly. But yeah, everyone's sort of scattered across the board. So if you can get some sort of early lead and then establish your leadership, it's going to be helpful moving into the mid game. Sure.
Well, let's talk about some coordination things that need to happen or have a better understanding of how to use coordination to do this specific action, and that's tower diving. And something that I really would like for us personally to get better at is coordinating that 4-man dive, because it's something that you see, again, happen in the LCS or at the pro level. They coordinate those 4-man dives really well. It may not necessarily equal into a kill, but it does equal into taking a tower. And there is an art to tower diving when it comes to playing. And I think the first piece of that is figuring out the person that needs to take the tower shots and being the person that starts eating those. And, leash it and eating those tower shots for your team before your team goes in and starts the dive, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there's sort of like 3 parts or maybe 2.5 parts to a tower dive. First, you have to have setup, so you can't just dive people with no minions unless it's like 40 minutes into the game. We're talking like early game here. So you have to have a nice big built-up wave so that you can crash that into the tower. Second of all, you need to execute the dive properly. So depending on the champions you're playing, you have to decide who's tanking and who's going to be using their abilities first, and then the third part is sort of escaping, which often uses flash. So I don't know.
There are like certain nuances to like tanking and stuff too that especially at the really high level play you see a lot. People will walk to the edge of the tower aggro range and they'll tank turrets until they're like 1 shot away from death and then back out, and that basically allows the person with all the damage to just go in for free, and they're safe from taking that turret aggro.
Yeah, you'll usually see that bot lane with support players where the support will like do whatever they need to do. Braum will jump in, hit his Q, whatever, and then walk to the edge and just wait it out. And then he'll move right out and somebody else will start taking aggro. I think the other thing when setting up a dive is knowing where the other players on the other team are. Because the amount of times I've been dove top lane when my jungler has been in that bush behind me, and then we turn the dive around and get a 2-0 for free. It happens a lot more than you'd expect, and you should have a rough idea at least of, is the jungler in the top side? Can this dive be affected in any way? Or is this guy just alone and he just wants the wave?
Yeah, so once you've made sure all those things are... Once you've decided you're going for the dive and it's safe, and let's say you're going for a 2-on-1 dive, you have to think about the enemy champion. So what sort of crowd control do they have? You have to make sure that you like walk up to them as close as possible. Don't just get into the tower and then use your gap closer, because then they can flash away from you. Mm-hmm. So if you're playing like Master Yi or something, don't just Q on them right away. Just walk up to them and start auto-attacking first. If you're diving bot lane and maybe it's just a Lulu or something, she has a polymorph, so walk up to her, try to bait out that polymorph. So maybe she does that. You haven't even taken any tower hits, and then once it's expired, then you guys can commit to the dive.
Right.
Like Todd said, there's just so many nuances, and it's very champion dependent.
Well, I think so. If you're playing bottom lane and you guys are setting up that 3 or 4-man dive, something to keep in mind is to not. I see this happen a lot in our games. Again, a lot of this is reflective of stuff that's happened over the last month of us playing. Is that like we'll try to set up a 4-man dive, but we don't respect how slowly, or we don't respect how slowly me again the AD carry or the AD carry can push the lane or is pushing the lane, because sometimes it's really hard, especially when you're kind of like low on mana, to get that lane to crash in that turret in time, and you guys are sitting in tri-bush, or your jungler is sitting in tri-bush waiting, and then they get caught by the enemy jungler. So that, again, that factor of understanding where the jungler is at, why are we setting this up, can we set it up, and do we have vision of everybody in the map? Because suddenly that 4-man dive becomes a 3-man gangbang on 2 people that are sitting in a bush waiting for the tower to make it up there, and your bot lane can't follow up. So, the cat is very distracting.
Sorry, he does what he wants sometimes.
I see that.
For our audio listeners, there's a cat on my shoulder right now. So watch us live Mondays and Wednesdays, and you too can see my cat be obnoxious.
It's a cute cat, though.
Mm-hmm.
My girlfriend has a tuxedo cat like that. But it's kind of weird because the tuxedo, it's like stops at the chin, so her face is all black, which is like really unique for that type of cat.
Yeah.
Oh.
Anyway, sorry.
Yes, you're distracting cat. Now we have cat talk. We're the cat talk podcast now.
Hey, why not? That'd be a great show.
People on the internet like cats, so
cats generate views, so you know how it goes.
Well, hopefully this video gets more views because there was a cat in it. I'm holding you to that.
I'll spread it out on the social, and we'll just have that'll be just the one clip from the Twitch stream today.
That should be the the thumbnail for the YouTube video.
Cat. Perfect. I love it.
Is there any reason to try to stop people from tower diving, like in your solo queue games? Like, should we be diving?
Yes.
My question is more, should we be diving in solo queue games?
Well, I have a very strong opinion about the way you worded it the first time, so I'm going to answer that.
All right.
Sometimes when you're a top laner and you're winning against the other top laner, sometimes it's worth going for dives if it's like a guaranteed dive, but there are some instances where it's just not worth it. Certain characters are really strong under tower. I'm talking like Trinity. I'm talking like Darius. Yeah, Shen strong, like Garen. Like anybody with an execute tends to be really strong against people against tower dives, or anybody with invulnerability. Like you don't want to dive a Kayle, for example. Basically, should you sometimes ping your junglers off? Yes. Like if you're familiar with the enemy cooldowns and like Kayle still has an ulti or like this, that, or the other. You don't want to give up double buffs. You don't want to even trade a kill in that situation. It's not worth it if you have a lead.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there are also some characters, like the whole point of a dive is to get yourself further ahead and your teammate and then put the enemy further and further behind. So there are some characters that are mildly dangerous under tower. Let's say like a Malphite. But if you kill him, is he really going to be that much more useless than he would have been without those 10 creeps and experience? So I would also prioritize diving certain characters like
Gangplank comes to mind.
Gangplank, Riven. If they're already behind your top laner strong, go up there and dive them, because then that person is just going to be useless. From especially like damage builders, basically.
I'm gonna hit my fist against the desk.
So 80 carries.
I'm going to hit my fist against the desk at this point and say I'm sick of everybody camping top lane, primarily because every time I play, the top laner never does anything with it but sit on their fucking island.
Yeah, I got to snowball my lead and take all the towers.
Yeah, no, that doesn't happen, though. Like
it does.
Every game that I play in, top gets snowballed early, and then we move into mid game, and not every game. 50% of my games, I won't even say majority, 50% of my games, the top laner gets snowballed and then does nothing with it. They're like 3-0-1 rolling into mid game, and I see nothing happen with it, and then our games fall apart. I know top lane is the easiest lane to gank right now. I know it's fun and I know it gets you that exhilarated, but I just feel like it's not worth the time to gank top lane.
No, the thing about that though is top lane also makes a lot of sense to dive, because if you're ganking for like a damage dealing top laner, they usually scale really, really well into mid game and then start to fall off later. So someone like Garen or Pantheon, maybe not Garen, I don't know. I think he's pretty strong mid game. You could speak to that, Todd, though.
Yeah, his 13 is definitely his strongest level, so I would say yeah.
So Riven or Jax, any of these characters are really strong mid game. So if you can push them over the top, usually you can carry a game maybe through split pushing or team fighting. just by getting yourself and them far ahead.
I would throw like Darius, and I would throw Kale, and
Yeah.
maybe even Nara, honestly, or in that mix.
And I think one of the other points here is just diving bot lanes a lot harder because of there's just a second person there, and you're throwing in a lot more variables, and depending on what support's there, they could just turn that around and be a 3-for-1 or something. Like if it's Thresh or God forbid you dive Braum, that's a really hard one to pull off a lot of the times. It's there's a lot of CC there. I mean, if it's like Karma Varus, maybe like that's not too bad of a dive if you can dodge Varus ult.
You have to be able to instantly kill them, basically.
Yeah,
there are different rewards for different lanes that you dive, right? So like when you go bottom, you could drag off that if you have the numbers advantage still. When you go top, you can usually secure first tower because you're so far away that it's rare that somebody can roam up there and defend that. Or you can go for Rift Herald instead if like that suits you more. And then like mid, it's hard to say like what you really get for diving mid. You don't necessarily
you don't get map control technically.
Yeah, like short-term map control, like it's hard to get mid tower off of like a single dive. But you know, sometimes you can get dragon off mid tower maybe if your bot lane's in an advantageous position already.
Well, depending on how the mid dive goes, and this as somebody who plays a lot of champions that like to dive mid lane, I've played Vlad a lot. I played Katarina. I play Zed. If you're healthy enough off that with your jungler, you can usually just like force on bot and force tower after you dive mid, or you can force top depending on what's the easier lane to do that too.
Yeah, if you have an assassin mid laner or an assassin jungler, and one of you is quite fed, diving mid is pretty easy because the champ's usually squishy.
Yeah.
So.
Well, you don't see a lot of mid dives, right? Because the lane is so damn short, and by
Yeah,
the time
a
you're
lot
trying
of-
to walk out of it, you're hitting the other tower.
A lot of mid dives are usually 1v1 dives, depending on like how low the other person is in the champion matchups. Vlad's really good at this. He can just like walk up, RQ, E pool, ignite, and then have another Q and pop his way out, and it's pretty much you can't do much about that. Or Zed, who just ults in, gets his abilities off, ults back out. It's things like that. You don't usually see like. Oh, it depends. You actually do see a lot of mid, like because of Wraith Pit, you can do a lot of interesting gank paths too for 2v1s.
That reminds me, because it reminds me of Elise. And if we have any Elise players out there that aren't already abusing her tower diving, they should be, because Elise is one of those unique champions in that you can take more than the. So when you're diving, like Todd said earlier, when you're diving, you're trying to take as many tower shots as to take -1. Right? If it would kill you in 6, you take 5. Well, Elise can take essentially 6 because as that last tower shot is flying toward you, you can repel up. So you're essentially taking a 6 tower shot at that point.
And other champions that are good at dives like that, Yi comes to mind with his Q. Zed can get one off with ult. Kled's really good at tower diving because of his passive. Those kind of champions that have...
Tarek's good at tower diving.
Tarek's great because he gives team invuln.
Alistair as well. Yeah, there are a lot of champions that either have increased resistances or can go invulnerable, like Fizz. It's a pretty toxic tower diver.
God, Fizz. I hate that champion so much.
But the unique ability of Elise is that she can do it at level 3 and not a lot of people can. So if your top laner is ahead, let's say it's a Darius, and he's probably got a level advantage for sure. So if he's level 3, the enemy top laner is almost certainly level 2. They don't have all their abilities yet. If that huge wave is crashing into the tower, you as Elise can walk up, use your W, then cocoon them, then Q them, and then bite them with your execute, and tank the first like tower shot or 2, and then you can repel up to get rid of the third one while your Darius is free hitting the other champion. So the reason it works is because the enemy top laner or mid or bot lane or whatever is underleveled, and you can avoid that tower shot early. Other champs can't really take more than 1 or 2 shots early, so
Yeah.
why she's so good at that. She's also hard to play, so if you miss the cocoon, you're probably not going to kill them.
Yeah, for sure. That seems to be her MO, right? Hit the cocoon or it's over.
Hit the cocoon or have enough damage to one-shot people. That's about where Elise is right now.
Yeah, I still think she's a great solo queue jungler though, because you can, if you're a good player, you can just buy Moby boots early and just run from lane to lane, ganking people, getting
The
your lanes
champ
ahead.
is hella annoying, dude.
Yep.
I hate that character.
I do that in solo queue quite often. She's pretty
Elise is
fun.
great.
But I mean, as a player, it does feel rewarding because you're getting your whole team ahead. But then you as Elise, unless you get all the kills, you're sort of going to be even. But it's not fair that you're even because you've done nothing but gank. You haven't farmed.
Right.
The enemy junglers just farmed, and now you're even.
And then catch up XP, and it's just like, yep, I'm right back to where I need to be. Great.
This is that's the main reason that people hate cash XP.
Oh well.
Oh well, we've talked about that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we more or less hit tower diving. Just make sure the lane, make sure you know what you're diving into. You know what you need to do, dodging abilities. Make sure you're tanking the tower if you're a tanky champion before somebody else, and always make sure there is a wave crashing into it when you're tower diving. Don't
And
tower
please
dive.
God, communicate as well. That's the most important part: is communication and coordination.
I'm going in.
So
Yeah,
if you're-
use
you're-
pings.
Pings
If
are there.
If you're not with them in voice chat, ping or type, I'm coming for the dive. I'm gonna tank first or whatever you want.
Short communications. No, we don't need novels of this is how we're gonna do this. No, just be like dive question mark and then get an answer or something.
Simple.
Well, we talk a lot about these questions, and the next piece in our document is actually why high MMR players have high MMR. Because there's always a lot of questions that feel like, people, I feel like I should be platinum. I feel like I should be gold. I feel like I should be diamond. Or I'm hard stuck here. Why? And there's some pretty basic explanations as to why people are in platinum or higher that I think we can try to answer for you. Santana, you look like you wanted to start the conversation off.
I mean, I can. So I think a really good thing to touch on here is if you keep up with the subreddit, the main league subreddit, like a couple days ago, maybe last week sometime, there was a post of like, oh, look at this guy. He's got 12 CS per minute and he's bronze 5. So it's not only like I talk a lot about CS because it's one of the easiest like numeric things to look at, and it generally will tell you how well you lane. And if you're at like 8 CS a minute, for the most part, that tells me that you're comfortable laning at that MMR and you're not getting denied. But if you're also not applying like general macro concepts to that, you're not going to go anywhere. Like this guy, he farms really well, but he has like an 8% kill participation, which means he just split pushes and lets his team lose everything without really doing much for himself other than last hitting. So the reason a lot of people think like, oh, it's my teammates, it's whatever, it's because they look at their numbers and their numbers are generally okay. Like I'm 3-2-3 and I'm got 7 CS a minute and I should be higher than I am because I'm playing okay. When in reality, either you have to be stomping your lane or you have to be helping your team as a whole, more so than just going even all the time. And a lot of players don't do one of those two things enough to be winning more than they're losing.
I think something that causes people to struggle to climb is just the inconsistency as a whole. Playing at a higher level requires you to play well consistently. So if you're the type of player who maybe gets 10 kills, only maybe a small handful of deaths one game, but then the next game you get 2 kills and you got 7 or 8 deaths because you're just down a lot. When you snowball like that in your matches, your wins and losses are going to reflect that. And becoming a better player is learning to the games where you don't get 10 kills. It's learning to minimize how far you get behind. There's a bit of an art to playing, from behind, and it just requires patience. So learning that helps.
Yeah. I would say personal responsibility is a pretty important trait to have, especially as a higher level player. They didn't get there by having good teammates. They got there by being self-critical of their mistakes and fixing them and learning to improve upon what they already do well.
And statistically, every once in a while you're going to get somebody who AFKs or just straight hard ints, and sure, that happens. But for the most part, you get 4 teammates, the other teammate has 5 randoms. So if you're playing at a level where you think you should be higher, you will get there because just by the numbers, there's going to be more bad players on that other team if you yourself are a good enough player.
Right. The consistency. Right. That's the key. We just brought that up. Being the better player, because you always have to manipulate the minion wave. You always need to play around vision. You always need to zone when it's advantageous to you. You should always aim to just master everything that we've ever taught you how to do. And taking everything that we tell you tonight, everything we told you last week, everything we told you the week before, etc., and actually taking that and putting it into practice and being self-critical about these. I mean, everyone hit all these points, right? But you need to use every piece that we're giving you, and that's what turns you to a little player. Just before this game started, I was telling Beaver, listen, I know what the fuck I'm doing out of mid. I mean, I don't know what I'm doing out of mid, but I'm learning. Every time I play mid, even when I walk out, and my last games, my death count is outrageous right now. But I'm actually learning what I'm doing, and every game I feel like I'm just getting a little bit better. Even if it doesn't show, I feel like I'm getting a little bit better because I'm sitting down and self-reflecting on it. I need to stop doing this. I need to start doing this better. I need to start picking champions to do this, etc. I'm always talking myself through it, or sitting in the morning. Personally, when I wake up and I'm in the shower for my 10 minutes in the morning, I'm sitting there thinking about, what can I do? My mind is fresh, brand new. What happened last night when I played those games? All right, well, I fucked up here. Now this is what I'm going to work on this week. Mm-hmm. And I try to use that 10 minutes I have right there out of my entire day to try to figure out what I'm doing for the rest of the week.
And if you've got like 30 minutes a day or whatever, just like time when maybe you're just going to sit down and eat or whatever, if you have plays or if you have replays, go look at them later after you've played. Like, don't look at them immediately because you're still going to be a little bit judgmental. You'll have that emotions from the game before, like, oh, yeah, this still wasn't my fault, even though like it obviously was your fault that you didn't check to make sure that was warded and you will face check in the 4 or whatever. Like, if you have some time separation before you start analyzing your play, you usually go into it with a cooler head and you can figure out pretty quickly, like, oh, this is what I need to do here and here. And then you can start improving on that by taking those notes and looking at your own gameplay.
And if you don't even know where to take the replay, like how to use that, if you don't even know the mistakes you're making, maybe check out some educational streamers. One I like to watch a lot for top lane is Quas. I think he's fantastic. He plays so many champions and he's got such good game knowledge.
Oh my god.
Yeah, but the fact that he can play them at such a high level is incredible. And he knows matchups, he knows what he's doing, and he tells you why he's doing it, and that's really important. I know Valkyrin just started streaming again. He's a pretty good jungler.
There's a lot of little guys out there like that. Like if you have a champion that you're maining and you go to the champion mains subreddit of like Victor mains, right? I found a Victor player because I've been having a lot of fun with him, even if he's bad. And I can't remember the streamer's name off the top of my head, but he sits there and he explains every piece of the information. He's top 100 Victor player.
I think I know who you're talking about. I can't remember his name right now, but a lot of people are like, yeah, he's on Victor, we're gonna win, or oh god, he's not on Victor, we're gonna lose.
Right. I love playing Victor. I just I need some more help as I understand it. But sitting down and watching him play into like LeBlanc, for example, and just watching him stand in the back and not do anything for 3 minutes and explain why makes me have a better understanding of how to play that lane and what I should be doing. So yes, listening to people explain specifically what you should be doing, the champion that you like, does improve your gameplay.
And even if you're a jungler, you don't have to watch just jungle streams. You can watch lane streams too to figure out why people are doing what movements. So you might be able to learn how to tell when someone's expecting a gank, because laners are pretty good at knowing that sort of thing. Mm-hmm. Like if bot lane you've been poking them out all game and then suddenly they start to step up into the minion wave, oh, maybe a jungler's coming. It's probably time to back off. Don't fight them. Mm-hmm. Things like that. There are these little tells, and they're always there. You just have to learn to recognize them.
Right. Just don't watch Marine, because you'll just get an earful about politics.
Less for bushes.
Yeah, you'll just see him sitting in a bush,
talking about politics the entire time, about the socioeconomic status of the middle-aged white man working for a pizza delivery joint.
I'm not middle-aged.
You fool me with that nice shine on your head.
I know you're a young lad. But
I tuned into the stream today and saw you execute Heisendong, and then I had to go. That's pretty funny.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Yeah, he got some Garen.
Dude, you tilt any people recently? I know you're on that Gosu streak.
Other than Grossi. I didn't have
Grossi, sorry, not Gosu.
Maybe he did.
The guy he was
Heimerdinger, dude. Heimerdinger was like underneath my tower, And I was like, no way, dude. So I flash ignite him, and he was done.
So really, if you want to get higher MMR, just play Garen and copy everything Todd does. So flash ignite people. There you go.
Flash ignite, build damage, max Q, and don't be afraid.
Nah, I'll give Todd it. If you guys want a good stream, watch Todd's. He's got a fun stream, and his chat's fun to listen to too, because they're all about it. Everyone gets rowdy in the chat.
And I'm the only streamer with a guinea pig emote, so that's a big plus.
Hey.
Boom. So go follow his channel, twitch.tv/Marine Revenge.
Yep, that's the one.
Hey, look at those plugs.
Well, let's talk some listener questions since we got a few tonight to end this out.
Why not?
Flake Nut writes in, how would you feel about a percent health damage metric? It would tally the total damage you did based on who you did it to. For example, 800 damage against a 1600 health opponent would add 50% to your total score. The current damage statistics feel worthless because 800 damage is a lot different against an ADC than it is against a tank.
I mean, I understand what you're trying to do. I think that's more of like a pro play statistic of like, oh, this guy does this much percentage damage, whatever. And we kind of have those stats anyway with just like total percent damage of your team and whatnot. I think it's a lot harder to put that in metrics, especially when you're trying to divide it up in terms of like, all right, I did 100% of the damage against the ADC kills, which obviously is never going to happen, but I did like 10% against tanks or something. I don't know how much that actually tells you. Sure, why not? More stats are fun, I guess.
Stats are fun, metrics are fun, but I'll go look at my stats of the game. I'll play Karthus, right? And I'll feed my dick off. I'll go 0-6 and whatever. And I'll still do more damage than the entire team, everybody else on my team, just because I'm fucking pressing R. And I'm doing flat amount of damage to everybody. So, like, statistics get skewed by AoE damage quite heavily.
Mm-hmm. I know, like, when I play Jace all the time, it's just like, all right, and did I not top the damage charts? Okay, I must have died, like, 12 times this game then. Because it's just Shock Blast does so much to backlines.
Yeah, some characters don't need to deal like tons of damage across the game to be useful. You could be playing Fizz and maybe only get 5 kills in a game, and all 5 of those kills run their AD carry, and your team won because of that.
Right, or you could be playing Jax and you get 1 kill and you just took all the towers.
Yeah, but you had 400 CS. You took everything. So these metrics are cool. I think it's a nice idea, and it'd be, if they added that to game, it's great, and we could use it in certain games, but I don't think it's super necessary at the moment.
What is necessary is a good death recap.
Please, yes.
We actually had a Red post about that not that long ago.
I was going to say, didn't they say they were going to fix that finally?
No, they were just kind of like, well, what the... It was more of a very... They were very annoyed by everybody keeps whining about it because, like, all right, we can put all these resources into it, but we could be putting these resources into other things that could improve the game more than just death recap.
But they have so much money that they have no excuse that they can't hire somebody just to do that.
I completely agree, but...
So, if you read... Did you guys read the Ask Riot or Riot Please with Ghostcrawler asking why they don't just hire more people?
I have not.
Okay, so he makes a really good point in that, yes, they have the resources, yes, they have the money, but hiring people is not just hire somebody, they fix the thing. It's hire somebody, and it takes 6 to 8 months for that person to be familiar with everything that we do, and now they can fix that thing. So hiring more people doesn't... Essentially, more cooks in the kitchen doesn't fix the problem. Because also, when you hire more people, you have to make a team. Now there's more voices, there's more cooks, and then there's more time for people to get things. So, like, yes, they could hire people. They could try to get this fixed. They could hire outside resources. But I don't necessarily, with that said, I don't necessarily agree with anything the Reds have said. I don't necessarily agree that we shouldn't have a good death recap. I should know exactly what killed me and how much damage each fucking person did to me so that I know. If I have a good death recap as an AD carry and I see, oh shit, I ate a random 50 damage Q from... the Edge of Karma. I know that number's low, but like, why did I get hit by that? Now I can go figure out where the fuck I was and what happened, because I need to know that I'm hitting this random AoE damage that I didn't know was happening in the fight.
And it's even more important when you're playing a tank. So let's say you dive into a team fight and you die and you take 4,000 damage worth, and you want to see where that's coming from. So if you've only been building armor, but their brand support dealt 45% of your health, you want to make sure you know that so you can build some MR. Yeah. That's when it really comes into mind. But as far as getting hit by other abilities, yeah, it'd be nice if they fixed it.
Dude, just having this is something that it will never get implemented, but just like post-fight statistics that just pop up that you can view, right? Like the fight's over and now I can view that, oh shit, I did survive with 50 life, but yeah, I took 45% magic damage from Brand.
It'd be nice to be able to see like like how much damage you actually did to your targets. You know what I mean? That would be interesting too. So you could know like maybe you need more armor pen or you know what I mean? Whatever
Right,
it might
or
be.
just seeing if like, oh, I'm pretty sure I can 100% this guy, and then it turns out, well, I'm actually like 100 damage off. So you know that for next time when you try to all in, it's like, no, I need to get an extra auto in or something.
God, I would love some stats like that in game. That'd be so sweet to be able to just pull up and look at while I'm dead.
I feel like they would never do that kind of thing though, because the league as a whole already has a ton of information you have to process, and adding that in might overload a lot of the players, just because if you consider that 50% of the player base is silver and below, right?
You say that,
So-
but now they're reworking runes and masteries completely.
But they're kind of making it easier because instead of having masteries and runes, you just have runes, which is like 8 things you pick.
And that's a completely just different discussion because that's based on. You can also talk about how new players are at a disadvantage because they haven't played as much.
Yeah.
Sure.
Oh,
Just because they can't afford the same runes that like veteran players can.
They've used the excuse before that, you know, there's like burden of knowledge is like the way that they phrased it a long time ago. They wanted to keep like character designs and item designs and things like that relatively simple. And they didn't want to have mechanics like denying and stuff like that because of quote unquote burden of knowledge. But the longer the game has been out, the more I feel like they've gone back on that stance. So honestly, at this point, I don't really think that changing the game, if it would actually make it better, is really a bad thing in any, you know, real, you know, quantity. But
Sure.
But at this point, I don't have the metrics that Riot has for actual new accounts, but do you think this game is actually growing at any significant rate? I think they just have to keep the people around that they have around and then make the esports work, right?
I mean, the game's already extremely large as is. I don't know how much more you could realistically grow your demographic.
Sure. I mean, I'm sure there's always new players coming in, but I'm just curious.
Sure, there's always new players. You ideally just want to have a point where you're getting roughly the same amount of new players as you have old players leaving. For right now, you're not in a like this is the first year of the game. We need to make sure we hit this number of players on your player base. It's like, well, we got like whatever. I'm throwing a number out there, 10 million concurrent players or something like that. We want to keep that steady or maybe up and down a little bit.
Sure. Well, should we answer one more question before we end this?
Sure, why not?
Stratosphere writes in, I want to play more Xerath in the mid lane, so I figured to be able to give advice on playing skill shot-based champions more effectively. What are the basics to hitting a skill shot? What should I look for when playing against my opponent? How do I make better predictions for long-range skill shots? Advice concerning mental strategies processes would be extra helpful.
So you can script. There's a lot of Xerath scripters. But if you're actually going to try and get better at this, a lot of it is depending on where you are. This is a complicated question because depending on what elo you're at, people dodge differently. There's multiple levels of thinking of, well, okay, so if I'm walking to my right and I see you charging up Xerath's Q, if I'm like at that level 1, I'm going to walk to my left because I see you. Because I was walking right, and I'm expecting you to keep going with me, so I'm going to walk the other way. Now, if there's a step above that where I think you're going to go left with your Xerath Q, so I'm just going to keep walking right. There's a level above that where I'm just going to stop because you're going to go one of 2 ways.
That's me
right?
with Xerathal. Like, I love dodging Xerathal because a lot of times they're, like, trying to lead you, and I'm just like, I'm just stopping.
and then there's that very last part of, well, you think I'm going to do this, but you might think I'm going to do this. So I'm just going to do what level 1 did, which is the thing that no one should ever do, which is why if you ever watch Challenger players streaming low elo when they miss their skill shots, they're like, no one ever walks like that because everybody in higher elo is kind of playing these different strategies of how to dodge and whatnot. So
Yeah, so what? No, so I was just going to say, so that's pretty much what you're talking about is all mind games.
Mm-hmm.
And when you're playing a mind game, you can start at level 1. So if you want to learn Xerath, just go up into the lane and try to learn your opponent. So figure out what he does to dodge. And if you're in lower elo, like basically anything, people will sort of stick to their patterns. So once you've figured out their patterns, then you can start to always hit the skill shots more and more reliably. So in the first few levels, that's where you're sort of testing the waters to figure out what kind of a player your opponent is. Is he aggressive? If you're playing against an Echo, does he always E and then E onto you? Because then maybe you can hit your stun reliably more often. But as far as the R goes, if you miss it, I don't feel bad because that one's real hard to hit.
Yeah, since they changed it, it's a lot harder to hit that because they gave it another mechanic. But yeah, I wouldn't worry too much about all. If you hit it, great. The bigger thing is hitting consistent Xerath Qs and leading your Ws a little bit more to hit that center, so you get more damage out of it and you get that longer slow.
Yeah.
The only thing that I have for skill shots is it's something that I learned when I went hunting with my dad many years ago, was that you need to lead your target. Because there's, if you're ever hunting and you're shooting a gun, there's a travel time for the bullet and there's a travel time for the person. You probably learn about this in math, right? So you have to make the travel times meet at the same time. So like if somebody is running straight right to left, you need to lead that person and drop it while it takes that time to channel. In League, it doesn't work out perfectly like that because it's not a dumb deer that just keeps running straight ahead and doesn't fucking zig and zag. But yeah, you have to lead your target. You have to try to figure out where your target is going, and you have to try to be a level ahead of the mind games of the opponent. Skill shots are something else that might help you hit a skill shot too. Is turning on, what is it? Quick cast with
Smart cast, yeah.
Smart cast may come out faster, but also the smart cast with range indicators.
Indicator, yeah.
Or binding, like we've said before, binding normal cast to something. Like I know when I use Blitzcrank, I always normal cast his hook, almost always, because I want to be able to see the range of the hook.
Sure.
Yeah, you can also set them so that you can quick cast with indicator, like if you press shift, so you can have it on quick cast all the time, and then if you're really lining up for like a clutch key or something, you can press shift and then hold down your spell, and then it'll give you the indicator and you let go. So if you'd rather go that way, that's another option. I know some people do that with Lee Sin, so they can get him early game in Italy too.
The only time I ever use Xerath E is normal cast. I have normal cast set for Shift E, so I can see how long the box is. It's also fucked me a couple times because I always try to I said Xerath. I meant Victor. Did I say Victor or Xerath? Whatever, Victor.
Whatever champion you mean. Yeah, I don't think I normal cast anything anymore. I think everything's 100% quick cast.
Yeah.
And that's just what I play at this point.
I'm that way too. But my very first game, I was playing Rise, and my friend did the settings for me, so he put them all on quick cast, and I didn't even know there was a normal cast. I was just like hitting the keyboard trying to play Rise.
Yeah.
I only ever went and set up a normal cast hotkey with the shift in my QWR because new champions would come out and I would never know their ranges, so I needed to have a normal cast hotkey, and then I just found a way to play around that.
Yeah, I think some champions are just built for quick cast. Like I've been playing Katarina a lot, and I couldn't imagine playing Katarina with normal cast because of how quick your abilities reset.
Sure.
But I know a lot of people still like normal cast Rumble Alt or normal cast Victor E or Blitzcrank Hook, like you said. It's those kind of things.
Things that are more precise sometimes work better with normal cast, but stuff that's point and click or like just a channel or whatever, smart cast tends to work pretty well for those.
Yeah.
Todd says he's got the only two. He's only got one ability that's point and click.
I mean, I'd smart cast for that at least.
Garen, the hardest skill shot champion in the game.
You know it, dude.
All right. Well, let's end it there, right? Unless you guys got anything else to add, which I don't think anyone else does. We went over a couple listener questions this evening. We talked about playing from behind and whatnot. Or not playing from behind, playing at high MMR, tower dives, and ganking bot and game length. I hope you guys all enjoyed episode 476 of this podcast. I'm just going to leave it there. Guys, we'll be back on Wednesday with another episode. Thank you so much for listening. Patreon.com/TForce Network. Write us feedback at TrinityForcePodcast.com. See you Wednesday.
Take care.
Later, my dogs.